respond back. Other people.
You have your mic on?
You are both muted. Okay. Evan, I saw that you unmuted. Can you speak?
Yep, I can hear you guys.
Okay, good.
Great.
Mark? You're still muted.
Wonder if he stepped away for a second.
See if you can unmute Mark. If you go, yeah, right, just says asked to unmute. So go-
I think they removed that feature. It used to have it, and then they realized it was kind of an invasion.
Mark, can you hear me?
He might, so Mark, if you can hear me, go under the device settings and select the right microphone. You might be trying to pull from a different microphone if you're wearing a headset or something like that. Have that issue all the time with people in the virtual meetings.
I mean, you have a quorum without Mark.
I know, I want to make
Sure.
sure just with taking notes that if you
Yeah.
can. Oh,
There's something.
Mark, can you write something in the comment box to let us know that you hear us in the chat? To just let us know, as long as you're able to respond, that'll be helpful. And listen. But also text them. Make sure. Yeah,
The thing would be is if we can't hear him, I mean, he's welcome to take minutes, but then we can't count him as a vote.
no, I understand.
Really? You want to go now and cover this? Okay, so. Well, then go. No, but I'll cover this and you can come back to the parking lot. Here. Okay.
Not responding,
Yeah,
so.
he's not responding to us, so. I mean, he did turn off he did unmute for a
Yeah,
bit.
he was toggling it there for a minute. I've texted him, but I haven't gotten a response yet, so.
So since we're recording. Oh, he can't hear any. You can hear me when you're. All right,
He won't be able to hear everybody,
uh,
not to take notes especially.
yeah,
The only thing I could think is the same thing for the device settings is you have to, unfortunately, it's annoying. You have to go. Sometimes the software doesn't pick up and you have to go
but
device
he-
setting, microphone, pick the right one,
Yeah.
device setting, audio, pick the right
yeah,
one.
but he can't hear, he's not even hearing us to do that.
Yeah, but can we type that into the chat? Because he clearly saw that, right?
Or
Yeah, he
if
did see
he's
that.
on a computer, he can go to his phone, he may be able to.
Just tell him that he needs to go to his settings. And make sure he has the right mic and the right audio. He's called him. We don't. Thank you. Couldn't hear you.
Something else, hold on.
Mark, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Success. Mark, can you say?
Yeah, we heard him.
We got
Can you hear me?
There we go. All right, now call to order the August 1st, 2024 meeting of the Trails and Greenways Committee. And we'll start with roll call. Mark, to you. Chef Anthony DiVincenzo here.
Beth,
Johnny Custer here.
John, thank you.
Beth Dungisha here.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Terry. Now I can't see anyone else, so
Evan is here virtually. Evan, can you
Yep.
respond?
You guys, I'm here.
And absent is the Dr. Delia Archer, Joe Kasuska. Joe Falcon is running late, so you might end up adding him back on later, okay?
thank you.
Yep. All right, ask for a moment of silence, everyone, please. Everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item is approving the agenda for today. Do I hear a motion to approve our agenda?
I second.
Okay, motion by Terry McCarthy, seconded by Beth Dungisha. And all those in favor of approving, say aye. Aye. Hearing no opposed, motion passes, and the agenda for today. It's hard to hear that, actually. Public comment for agenda items only. No public in the meeting today, so move on to the next one. Consider approving the minutes from our July meeting. No, sorry, June meeting. Sorry, June meeting. We didn't have that one in July. So do I hear a motion to approve our minutes from June?
Second.
All right. Moved by Terry, seconded by John. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the June meeting, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Ayes have it. Minutes are approved from our June 6th meeting. No presentations today, nothing from the township recently for land development review. Future land development review. Steve, I don't think that thing then on the 14th has something to do directly with that, right? I don't know if you want to bring that up in this time, but I'll leave it up to you, sir.
So there is a land development that's coming in. That's what's on the 14th. I don't know that it would impact this area very much, this group very much. It's Boron is coming in with a logistics center on the, I'm going to call it the Marble property for those who know what the Marble property is. If you don't know what the Marble property is, the best way to describe it is if you know where Florida Park is, or if you know where the end of Campus Boulevard is, if you go straight across if you were to cross over Route 3 on Campus Boulevard, that becomes Alice Grin Boulevard. On Alice Grin Boulevard, as it starts to turn back to the west, They're looking at putting a logistics center, I believe it's an 80,000 square foot logistics center, back at that location. I think it's on
You say 80 or 8?
80000. Make sure I have the right number. AD.
I want to make sure I heard that right. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
It's, so, it's a single 5 acre lot development on a 55 acre lot area. So, that's what the development is. I don't think everything's been turned totally in yet, or it would have been on your agenda. And so, but that's what's coming in. And they are going to be before the planning commission at the end of the month. So, you'll have a chance, at your next meeting to at least put a review on anything that you would want to in regards to trails. What I will say is, where it's located, I don't know that there would be a lot of trail pickups at that location anyhow, but that's where we're looking. That's
Is
what-
it next to the property that was recently done? That they've had proposals for, which were not included in the last, it's on the far western side of the property?
No, it's actually on the eastern side of Alice Grim compared to that, as
Okay.
it turns back to the western side.
I might be completely off, but is that close to Mistardi's
It's closer to Mistardi's
than it is to the western part of it?
Than probably. It's
Okay.
probably about the same distance, maybe.
Okay,
I have a
Okay,
question
interesting.
about that.
make sure your mic's on.
Yeah, thank you. So somehow I got an invitation to Boyron for that meeting on the 14th.
Yes.
Did everybody?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, everybody got the invitation. We're not going to have it because one of their key people can't be there to do the presentation. So we were going to present it to everybody at one time, just so that everybody would be able to see what the project was. And then let each one of you meet individually and discuss it. That you'll just meet individually and discuss it like you normally do. We just aren't going to have a joint meeting.
What's the planning commission, when are they in front of the planning commission again? Was it?
It's kind of weird because of the month.
Okay.
Today is the first. So I think it's like, hold on a second, the 29th. No,
29th?
I'm sorry, the 22nd.
22nd, okay.
Yeah, because this is the first, today is the first and it's a Thursday. So it's the first Thursday and it's the
And they're the
fourth.
third,
So
they're the third,
so it makes it the 22nd.
yeah, so 3 weeks, okay.
Yep.
Great, yeah, usually it's later in the month. almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Understood.
a weird.
Yeah.
The way the month fell, it
So what is
falls
on the
weird.
14th?
Nothing.
Nothing now. It was supposed to be a meeting where they were gonna present everything, but the person who was gonna present is not available, so.
Got it.
So in theory, then, the first opportunity we have to see is if we went to the planning commission to listen.
Right, and then you'll have an opportunity to see it at your next meeting.
Yeah, then, I'm sorry, but the first opportunity. is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, thank you, sir. Mark, I don't know if you saw, Joe joined us. Joe
For the
Falcon.
record-
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it.
5:45.
I'll mark it.
Thank you. So far, Joe, that meeting for the 14th is likely canceled. Because the person that was supposed to be presenting, the one that we all got invited to, was for this Boreon logistic thing, is likely canceled now. So, yeah. The person that was going to do the presentation is not available. So they're going to be going in front of the planning commission on August 22nd. And then we will have an opportunity to talk about it and see everything in our next meeting. That's really the only technical business I'll say that we got through, other than the approvals of the agenda in minutes. So quick recap.
But if we have some comments, we ought to go into planning.
Yep.
No.
No, not for this
Yeah,
one.
so your planning, your comments won't go before planning. In fact, we're not even taking any committees, plannings, comments before planning, they're all going before the board of supervisors.
They're all going right to the board.
Yes.
Okay. So in our next meeting, we'll have the opportunity to review it, discuss it, make recommendations, write it, and then send it to the board.
The planning is where all the recommendations are made.
You're making a recommendation to the board of supervisors, just like planning is. You're both recommending bodies. So if you have a recommendation, you will make it to the board of supervisors.
Okay.
Okay,
After they get the recommendations from the planning.
so they're gonna get recommendations from environmental advisory, they're gonna get recommendations from planning, they're gonna get recommendations from you, and they're gonna get recommendations from Shade Tree.
Okay. But normally we have an opportunity to go into planning and comment.
We're changing it so that all recommendations go directly to the board of supervisors, because you're all just recommending bodies. So that you're all recommending to the board of supervisors. The planning commission is a recommending body.
It is, but that's where a lot of the decisions are made, even though they're in the form of recommendations. And it's normal for us to go before the planning to have
Okay.
our comments,
I'm just telling you how we're going forward.
okay?
Okay.
That doesn't give us much of an opportunity.
No other on the horizon that you're aware of, sir? Future development stuff?
There are several projects that are in the works, but none that have come in that I'm aware. I mean, there's, I'm trying to remember, were you guys made aware of the garage for Porsche? No,
I don't think so.
because that would have been at your July meeting. Yeah, so, Porsche is putting in between the Porsche and Ferrari dealer, they're putting in a joint parking garage for the two dealerships. Which will include adding sidewalk in front. Which will allow to have a
On that
sidewalk.
portion of Westchester Pike.
It will be basically all the way down Westchester Pike, down to the residence that's there, which I think has a sign in front of it now, Empriano roofing.
Mhm.
So basically there'll be sidewalk on that side of the street all the way down to that location. And hopefully we will add sidewalk from there down to the Marvel property when Marvel comes in to do their piece.
That would be nice. That'd be very nice.
Porsche? I don't know if they're right on the sidewalk. I know they're putting it in between the two buildings. But I don't know the answer if there's, I'd have to go back and look at the plan. They have a requirement for a certain number of trees, but I don't recall where the exact location of them are.
So did they already go in front of the planning commission?
They've already gone in front of the planning commission last month.
Is there any way for us to just get a copy of the plans? Thank you, sir. All right, new business, discussion and possible action, E-Bikes Subcommittee, comments back on preliminary questionnaire. To be quite honest, I don't think I've looked at it since our last meeting, Joe. I don't know. I don't think so, right? No. I don't think you and Mark discussed it either, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's been busy recently, so I've not had an opportunity to review and provide comment back, so we don't need to even do very much of it, just sit down, go through your initial stuff and send you comments back so that we can expand upon it or do whatever else we need.
But one of the things we did discuss was a survey.
Yeah,
So I think that's sort of low hanging fruit. I think early fall, I think we should probably get something prepared. And I don't know, does that have to be approved by the township supervisors to be sent out?
I would think so if we're gonna
Okay.
send out something like that.
So what would be the deadline for the township supervisor to review that and make an action on it?
Well, I mean, their meeting is the 12th or the 9th of September, 12th of August or the 9th of September.
Okay. So why don't we do
Or
something-
we could go as late as the 23rd, depending on when you want it to go out.
why don't we get something together for the 9th?
Okay.
Does that have to be a motion that's approved through ours first or? can
You mean for you?
we- Yeah,
If we're getting it in
I
front
think
of the
that if
board, I
you,
think,
you
yeah.
could, I mean, you guys have already discussed that you want to do it. I think you've already agreed that you want to do it. I'd have to go back and look at the minutes specifically. But I think if you put together the survey, you could actually officially approve it at your meeting on the 5th.
Yep.
And then we would have it, and I would just get a copy of it to the board ahead of time. And then we would, and then you could approve it on the 5th, they could approve it on the 9th.
All right, so we're gonna work towards getting by that date, we're gonna have the official final questionnaires ready that we can then discuss in our meeting to say, okay, Board of Supervisors, this is what we want to do. They then review it at their meeting on the 9th, and then hopefully move forward with that and get that out to the residents. Okay. There was actually, between our last meetings, there was actually an article in one of the local newspapers about that kid I was telling you about riding the dirt bike on 252 up the wrong way. Apparently, he is a social media influencer.
there's a kid.
Yeah. He has like some massive social media influence where he goes and does, stuff, he's not crazy stuff on the bike, basically. He's from Haverford, I think.
No, he goes to school with my daughter.
Maybe that's what it was. He goes to Haverford School or something.
No, he went to Paxton Hollow. I think he's going into high school.
Okay. But yeah, I saw a news
I heard-
article and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, that's the kid.
I
Like,
didn't know it was on 252. I had heard that he got hit.
no, I saw him.
Paxton Hollow.
I saw him personally
Oh, okay.
going up and down my neighborhood a couple of days and then
Yeah.
going up the wrong way on 252. Because you can't like right by my vehicle and but it was just kind of a weird coincidence that you and I talked about. I called you that day and then I saw the news
Yep.
article. So either way, related to the e-bike conversation, definitely interesting to say the least. So. All right, so we've got a goal set. We've got a deadline, which is good. I like deadlines for myself. Any other questions on the e-bike stuff? Mark, part of the subcommittee, anything, sir?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Great, thank you. Next one, 10.2, discussion and possible action, zoning review committee. I know Joe Kasuska is not here. I know that Evan, you and he had spoken previously before, we obviously canceled last meetings with a lot of people being out on vacation and stuff. If you could do your best to give us a summary remote where you're at right now of your conversations and what you think the next steps are.
Yes, Joe and I met the last week of June. We came up with a list of, I think it was maybe half a dozen items in the zoning code that got some ideas about making some recommendations. I sent a summary email to Anthony.
Yep.
We would like to review with him before we make an official report to the full committee.
Yeah, I did review them. I haven't gone back to yet, but I did review them. I had some of my own notes that I was going to send back, but I definitely like the one idea of some of the affirmative stuff of the existing zoning code, which was oddly enough, thinking outside the box is like one of the things that Evan had in there was there were certain things that were existing within our zoning code that we really liked. And we're like, we want to make it clear that these are also things that we don't want to see change that do match our objectives for this committee. So that was a good part. I like that, Evan. Thank you.
Yep.
That was definitely something, because we were thinking about talking about change, but sometimes there's some really good pieces of policy in there, and that was
Well-
something that was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and to be clear, we're planning on recommending some changes as well. So it's not all,
Yes.
everything's great, keep it as is. So.
Oh, yeah. I just thought that was interesting. I just wasn't expecting that, so that was still good to hear, that's all.
Interestingly, when we met, Joe brought up the change in the zoning code allows the logistics center that was passed, I think in the last year or so. That was something that was specifically added to allow that logistics center. I think it was an ordinance that was passed last year.
It was passed earlier this year, yes,
Earlier this year.
This year, thank you, Steve. Yep.
probably about 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
All right, anything more, Evan, you want to
So
bring
yeah,
up?
I think
Sorry,
hopefully we can get together, with Joe and before next meeting, and we can do a full report to the committee next meeting.
Yeah, we could do that. If you want to come over, my kitchen's almost done. I finally have a house that I can actually entertain at, so. Not a construction zone.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk to Joe. We'll set up a time.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Evan.
Yep.
All right, on to 10.3, discussion and possible action, trail walks, events. And some recent stuff. Terry?
Well,
Carrie, it's your
Mike?
mic.
you. We had 2 walks since we met last time. One was at Sunrise Hike at Okehocking, and Evan came, and Leonard and Cindy Mahalo, and a good about 20 people. We did it with Connect Edgemont, and they did have that letter for people to sign, the release form, and I got a couple, but you can just download that off their website. So maybe we can just tweak that if we want to for the next one, but that was really fun. Then we did another one at Pendle Hill where we had over 50 people. That was a lunch. If you wanted to go to the lunch, we had about a dozen people go to lunch. It was delicious at Pendle Hill. And then there was a guided environmental walk. And then a meet and greet, which I didn't even know they were going to do. They did it for the entire community, where they hosted everybody into their barn and they had refreshments. And it was really a remarkable day. A lot of good feedback from that one. So that's our 2 that we've done. I don't have a plan for the next one. We have about 1,050 members now. And, I do get, what are you doing? What's it gonna be? And I kind of it's August. I don't know.
So what about that thing we talked about before with Doug?
Oh, I did send a letter over to Brandywine Conservancy. That's right. I joined the Brandywine Conservancy. And then I sent a letter to the president or their CEO. And she has that letter according to their membership director. But it takes a long time evidently for her to go through all of the touching base with all of the people who live on the borders there. It's a very wealthy environment there in the mill across from the paper mill, right? So these are monstrously large, not monstrous, but very, very large homes. Because when you walk it, it's almost like the security cameras are looking down at you. So I think that's part of the protocol. They let people know, get their feelings about, would you care to have a walk with Newtown Townships, Trails and Greenways, and the Historical Society to go through. And so we may not hear for months.
So they're in their own public notice period of the residents.
Probably what's happening. I don't have written confirmation, I have verbal. So that would be a terrific one because as Beth knows and John knows, that might have been on the Underground Railroad Trail. It goes from Waterloo. I'm talking about Waterloo here.
Yeah.
Okay, Waterloo Mills Preserve. From there over to the paper mill and then up to Radnor. So.
Yeah, another thing that I'd like to put on our radar for the fall would be Evan and I had done a random Sunday or something where I was talking to him about some stuff when I lived in Radnor. So we went up to the Radnor Trail. That's something we talked about for a while. It was again, it was a rail trail thing. So just from our own committee's sake and any of the people in the group that are residents of Newtown Square, if they're curious what that potentially looks like in the future. There are certain areas that we went to specifically where it's like, this is the quote unquote prototype of what the rail trail looks like. It could be helpful from an informational standpoint that when we do get questions about people are unsure what it looks like and, you know, the obvious goal is in the future of that, it's still on our plan. That's a major one that would be great to connect Brookside and Greer. So that I think is something where let's finally do that, reach out to our counterparts in Radnor potentially, or just do it ourselves. But it would always be good to get combination effort.
Yeah.
So that's one I think that we talked about for a long time that we haven't actually done. So that would be a good one.
Yeah, it's got.
It's very
the
easy.
arts center there.
Yeah, the Wayne Arts Center is
Really
great.
nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice idea.
I don't know if they have any, they have events sometimes too, so it's always possible that we could plan it when they're having it, so you're walking along it, and then you have a little way station at the Wayne Arts Center. That's pretty cool. That might be an extra way of getting more people to it.
One of the people who's gonna be in this art show that we're hanging this week, which is the first one that will be $100 and under, Beth's gonna be in it. And the chair of the board at the Wayne Arts Center, Jim Cobb's gonna be in it. And if we talk with him about maybe doing some sort of cooperation on a walk, I'm sure he'd be supportive. I'm thinking parking, is it, you go in the, I always parked in the, where it used to be Kmart.
Where are you
back in
talking?
the- Parking for the Radnor Trail.
So yeah, you can park up where they have the micro center and all that, and then walk down through that little piece, or you can also, there's parking lots, but there's not a lot of parking spots, and it is a pretty decent lot in the just back in the neighborhood where it takes you, it cuts off the trail a little bit, and then
Yeah,
there's,
that's not cool for a big budget.
no, it's not, that's what I'm
So,
saying, but there is
but there's
parking
that
there.
Supermarket.
Yeah.
That area.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that's where the micro center is, that's where there's a
That's not what I'm
PNC.
thinking. Okay.
You're talking the other
other
end. I'm
end.
sorry, you're talking off of Old Eagle School Road.
Yes,
I think there's a Target there now. I don't know if
there's
it
a
came
ton of parking in there.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
where I would put the-
Yeah, I was thinking the other end because
Yeah,
that's
the
where I
pretty
lived.
end.
Yeah, I lived at the other end of
Yeah,
it,
it's
but
pretty end.
there's
but-
also, there is also a little bit more parking. There's a pizzeria like midway and there's a little park with a
Oh, yeah.
restroom spot.
Yeah, there's-
Thank you.
What
Yeah,
is it called?
Vic and Dean's, right? Yeah. So that's it. Either way, there's plenty of locations, but you're right. If we were all going together as a large number of people, that probably would be
That end.
one of the better spots. Yep. So
Evan-
anyways, that's something we can look forward
Evan,
to.
you interested in helping with the Radnor walk?
Yeah, as long as I'm available, I'd be happy to help.
You had your hand raised too. With any other, you wanted to bring something up?
Oh, yeah. Carrie, can we talk offline about getting another trail walk scheduled? I'd like to maybe do something in collaboration with the fire company. I think there might be an opportunity to do something from there, or ending there, or starting there, or maybe both, and get a little tour of the firehouse and meeting some of the folks there.
Great.
That's a
idea.
great idea.
That's terrific. I just sent him my donation, so be nice to us.
Great.
Cool,
That's
thanks.
good. Thank you.
But yeah, maybe you and I can talk offline about what that would look like and how that can work.
Terrific. That sounds great. Thank
All
you.
right, great. Yep, thank you.
All right.
Okay, let's go back to what I brought up 10 minutes ago. With Doug Humes and the barn in Radnor in Haverford Township. We were talking about a walk before. Doug, when he was young, went over to pick up his sisters at a barn and ran into all these young women, good-looking young women. And that started a sojourn with his friends and them, and had a wonderful time over at that barn. And I think Doug would like to narrate that, if you're interested. You seem to have some reservations. We don't have to use the word boring groups.
Okay.
I have no idea.
John has an idea for a walk that will be co-sponsored with, I guess, Doug and his Haverford Trails people.
Marple Newtown Friends of Trails.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. No barn girls.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay. Moving on to the next one. So 10.4, discussion and possible action on official town map. So we've had a subcommittee on the official town map for a little while. It's been literally since almost day one, trying to look at a possibility. I had no idea what the heck it was at first and tried to learn as much as possible. So we've been able to come up with a kind of a rough plan that we're continually kind of modifying in the subcommittee, that now we're at a point where we're getting really close to actually submitting something. So the goal is right now is, I think we were planning for our September meeting to have the quote unquote final draft to discuss amongst everybody with the different properties, and the township would really like to protect all of its existing properties, so a lot of the parks and things, and a couple other key properties, Garrett Williamson being one of them. So there was a few on there that were like critical that we got to protect, we got to do it. So we're going to put those on there. We're going to have that ready and then bring that up in our next meeting in front of everybody so we can all discuss it and ask questions and essentially get the last one together. And then we would officially vote on making the recommendation, send that final document up to the Board of Supervisors for their next meeting to kind of review and look at. So that's kind of where we are with that.
Were we going to
I
be
have-
meeting with the supervisors before?
We did.
Okay.
We met with a couple of them. They gave us some
Right.
advice. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, that was all part of that subcommittee stuff. So now we're finally at the period where we feel like we can bring it to everyone in the committee to be able to review and vote on and make recommendations and then get in front of them. I know, John, you've been working on this for a very long time. I've been working on it since I've been on this committee, and we think that this is one of the more critical things for helping with, and it's really cuts to the core of what this group is supposed to be for. So we're pretty excited about it. Yeah. So I don't know, really, honestly, I've just been buried. I did start on the comments that we had from the meeting and started going through, and then I quite honestly, I don't know what happened, forgot a few number of them. There were some properties that I didn't even know the township owned, and I have since forgotten from that meeting. So I was actually wondering if I could call one of the two of you, because you probably would know, and say, hey, listen, like, this is what I have. I know I'm missing a few. Can you just tell me, point me in the right direction? And then I'll do my thing where I go on the parcel maps, get the right tax parcel numbers, so they're identified, all that kind of stuff. So I've trimmed down the other stuff and then added a couple of the ones, but I'm definitely missing some, I know.
Okay.
So
I
let's
think-
call it old age. For me.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, you're
For
talking
me.
about me?
No, my memory.
No,
No, my memory. I'm 40 this month. I think I'm getting old.
Oh, my God.
So.
So no, yeah, I can probably even send you
Minutes
a list.
or a list, that would be
Uh,
extremely helpful. Thank
I
you. Because I know there was some properties on there from discussion where I was like, I didn't even know the township owned,
Yep,
and I was like, okay. So yes, thank you very much. That would be very helpful.
Would we be interested in adding the historic buildings to that?
Well, it's my understanding that they kind of had to be related to recreation or possible trails that we had marked. So really the follow-up with that to be, if there's historic properties that also fall along a proposed trail, there might be, I mean, sir, do you have any feedback on that?
well, I would think that if, like, for example, the paper mill house is also a park.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's a good example. Yes.
We would probably also argue that the covered bridge is also a park. So I think that putting those two on for sure is not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, So
I mean,
what I
I don't
could-
know if you have others in mind. I think we'd have to look at what they are.
well, we
Who
could
they're
always
by.
reach out and just get a list of what they were, and then all I have
Yeah.
to do is overlay it with the map and say, you know, how easy does that make it? Because if there's a trail that we want going along it, right, or right through it, then that makes it easier from that perspective as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think the tavern's a possibility.
that's a good one. Good comment, thank you.
I can help you if you want on some.
Yeah. Yeah, because gotta get it done and back up, ready for our next meeting. I don't want to delay any longer at this point and move the stuff along for sure.
Good
I
idea.
want to get everything up in front of the supervisors before we get towards the holidays. All right? Okay, any other questions right now? Again, like, this is the first time we brought this up in the full meeting because it's just been so hard and difficult to get through with the subcommittee stuff for a while with it, but more details to come. All right, discussion and possible action on the 2025 budget. So I brought this up because it sneaks up on quickly. I think it's October, this stuff is officially due,
Actually, I need you guys to kind of have yours done by your September meeting.
September meeting. Okay, so another one is September meeting, so, okay.
So but what we're looking for is not necessarily the exact dollars that you need, but what it is that you want to accomplish in 2025 that will require funding.
Okay.
So think about what it is that you really want to see happen in 2025. So what I'm doing probably at the second meeting in September, because I don't think I'll be able to do it by the first meeting in September for the board, is I'm going to have a presentation that I'm going to have all of the different committees' budgets as one presentation. And we'll present it all to the board as a kind of an information gathering time.
So question I have on that is last year was the first time I did like a formal one where I did create estimates and I came up with the
Yep.
list and everything.
We'll
But
do the same thing, but this year's, we're focusing this time on what are the activities, what are the actions that you want to take that would potentially require resources. And first, so that the board has an idea and let the board approve those things up front and say, this is, yeah, we're okay with these things. And then I'll have you go back and put monies to it so
okay,
that we know where we're headed.
the number one thing is it's relatively very small amount for Terry's meetup group.
Yeah.
that she's been funding herself for.
Yeah, we
4
had
years
the money
now.
in the budget. I just need to get that moved over. I got to get it put in our name.
Oh, we do have.
We put
okay.
it in the budget last year.
Okay, so yeah, like I knew we requested it, but then I hadn't heard anything. And
So
I
it's in
wasn't
the
sure what
budget.
that
I
was
just
at.
have to figure out how to get how to put it in our name. I don't know how to transfer it to our name. So I don't know how we. No.
No.
Not- I don't know how to pay you. I need to transfer it so that it's our bill. Okay,
He's a subcontractor, easy bill.
no, it needs to be, the
They want the
I-
account.
the account needs to be in our name.
I know. All right, okay, so yeah, I wasn't aware of that, so, okay, so by next meeting then, if everybody could individually send me ideas, because we can't Sunshine Act stuff, because we won't have time for the next meeting to have an open discussion, but if I have individual emails or texts from everybody on ideas of the activities, we obviously have the trail walks. We had tried and failed with the whole bike thing at one point, but there, in theory, could be a yearly bicycle event that then has certain funds associated with it. That one we had gotten delayed with the police, so technically that still is a cost, right, sir? Of having the police support for that event that we were looking for the Westchester Pike crossings and 252 crossings. So just stuff like that would probably be helpful. So if you could shoot that over to me, I'll then compile it and get it in the agenda for next month's meeting so we can officially put that budget request in that format that Mr. Neese is asking. Okay, Evan or Mark, do you have any comments on the budget stuff? Do you understand what we were going through there? I'm trying to make sure that you guys are hearing me clearly.
Loud and clear.
I can hear you loud and clear. Yep.
Great, thank you very much. Okay. All right, moving on then to old business. Update on the monthly review of the open space network plan, securing trail easement. So main thing then is the different tools and techniques of acquiring the land and easements and different stuff like that, of getting the access to be able to do the trails. You know, in my head, I always go back to Mr. Neese's comment from probably a half a year or more or so ago now with you're at kind of the hardest part of trail projects, which is actually acquiring the ability, like the land or the easements to actually do it. So there's municipal and county open space programs, which they call out here in this plan. We've kind of recently learned with the conversations, the official town map, how it's a little interesting, the differences between local level, county and state and what the capabilities are. I'm still learning so much, just trying to figure out the capabilities and possibilities of the township there. One of the things that, at least in our open space network plan, that was the most interesting in this section that I read was this a sample program activities. And it was talking about establishing a plan, so open space policies and procedures. So that goes into the conversations with the zoning subcommittee now that we have. That goes into the recommendations we have here. The official town map is part of that, right? Creating protection policies and procedures that we're trying to make recommendations to the board to do. So that's part of it. The plan itself and the creation of this committee was one of that. That's actually further down on the list, I think. It's like the next one, creating priority focus areas and assistance of committees and the public. So that was like kind of step 2, was actually creating this committee. The next one, creating maps, plans, biological inventories. They kind of did that in this study, Gilmore Associates. So there is maps in there. There is some identifications of some of the different species or our focus areas, right? They have the biological inventories a little bit. It doesn't go far enough. Obviously, we've already discussed in previous meetings for a while now of some of the properties that were missing that probably should have been on there, stuff like that. But overall, they were almost following their own plan with that. And then the township followed through on a few of them so far. And then we're kind of in this next like jump here from line 3 to moving on is like outreach with landowners, project management, appraisals, surveys, and property settlements. So that's like you're actually talking about specific properties at that point. So we're kind of in between, there's 7 steps and there's kind of in between 3 and 4 at the moment. And it goes into interpreting the complex legal information that goes along with it. And then finally, it's providing long-term stewardship. So that's where you almost really, you have it at that point. Now you got to keep it. You got to make sure that your plan doesn't fall apart. So we're kind of in between these steps. It had been a while since I read this section. So I kind of went through it again last night, and that was at least the most interesting part, I thought. So we're kind of in this mode of kind of at step 3 right now, where we're still creating plans and maps. We're adding to them, but we're really at that point where we need certain policies from the zoning, certain policies to make recommendations to the board to kind of get us over the hump and get us in the next phase. So that was kind of my assessment of it. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. I know every month I bring this up because I'm trying to keep us as focused as I can on the original thought process of it, but also to generate conversation. And I hope that everybody else, I know I have prep time, so it's a little bit different. But I don't know if anybody has any questions, comments on what I just said there. No? Okay. Oh, Evan
Yes.
does. Evan does. There we go. Sorry.
Yeah, one of the things you brought up was how, acquiring land or, creating the space for these greenways and open spaces is one of the challenges. One thing I was reading about was in collaboration with the township, obviously, and the zoning, folks. If there's large properties being developed, some of the ones we were just talking about earlier in this meeting, if there's opportunities to give some zoning relief so that the developer can still accomplish, what they're trying to accomplish financially with their development and, getting the value out of their land. But giving them some relief in certain areas in order to allow them to use less of the parcel, and maybe some part of the parcel becomes an open space, becomes part of a trail, something like that. That's something that, we can hopefully negotiate through zoning on some of these future developments.
Thank you, Evan. I don't know.
Was that too crazy of an idea?
No,
No,
I think.
no,
that's a
Bear
great
with us for a
idea,
sec. I just wanted, I didn't know if George or Steve had a comment. That's-
Well, I mean, like, we've been asking for, in development, we've been asking for sidewalks and or trails as part of that. And, George was just reminding me that Sawmill property was an example of one that we asked for the trail easement
Yeah.
as part of that project. I mean, it's becoming a part of our normal asking, because we understand walking is important and trails are an important part of that, and sidewalks are an important part of that. We've done, in fact, I think there was a grant that was submitted today for purposes of extending a sidewalk along Bishop Hollow Road here. So we're trying to do those to make connection points that will eventually allow us to either connect to other sidewalks and or to trails.
So, I don't know, kind of related. I was having trouble hearing, but everyone's talking about how it relates with the zoning and everything. Is some of this stuff with the official town map have crossover with the zoning, where it could actually lead into changes in the zoning regulation potentially? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, you can always incentivize. If you're trying to, like, for example, we've talked about, and, John was a part of I think, John, you were a part of the Listeter project, where they took the idea of saying they wanted to incentivize open space. So they allowed density clustering.
Yeah.
So there's things like that you can do. I mean, the townships looked at that again as a way.
Was it a recent zoning change on the height restriction thing too? That falls into the clustering conversation.
There was a, I'm not sure what you mean by.
I can't remember
I know there was something related to height.
Yes,
within
and I
the
can't
commercial
remember the
district,
specifics.
but I don't know why you're saying that tied into
No, what
clustering.
I'm saying is that quite literally, so if you look at like a lot of the shore communities and things, a lot of other areas where development booms happen, part of the whole clustering conversation is you're gonna build up
Gotcha.
so that you're putting the density of the people in condos and stuff like that and apartments in a relatively small geographic square area, but then you're just going up, and then you have other issues that come with that. So it's one of those things, like it's a balancing act.
Yeah, I think the township, I think current, I don't want to speak for the supervisors, but I think the current position of the supervisors, or at least the current supervisors, is that that they want to limit the number of additional multi-housing, particularly apartment kind of buildings.
High-rise almost.
High-rise kind of things.
It's not city
They-
high rise, but yeah.
They're probably more open. But the height thing that you were talking about was actually in the commercial district, not in the residential.
It was? Okay, I didn't realize that. I thought it had to do with the right across from Cayley Road there and those apartment buildings right there. I thought that's what it was related to. 'Cause that's mixed use property, right?
Well, that was a mixed use
That's
property,
commercial
but
and
it
residential.
actually was more related to, I think it was tied to the commercial district, if I recall.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I wasn't sure, but that was just obviously some description. Okay.
Steve, I'm glad what you said, because that was exactly what I was talking about, is when you said, you know, using, having a denser development and creating open, like you said in Lister, they're having, denser development to create some open space. That's exactly, what I was getting at. So like, instead of, you know, if you have, you know, whatever, 20 acres instead of 20 single family 1 acre lots, you do a denser development, you have some open space left over. And that's kind of what you were talking about. And that's exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah, I mean, and we tried that with even the development that was done with the Stony Knoll. We suggested a more dense, condensed, closer together units and things like that, and they opted to go with what was the other direction, but
Well, there was a couple times, because
he kind of flipped.
he
but-
flipped a couple times, because then ultimately he went with larger properties that were further apart, larger houses he could sell at a higher value to compensate for that. The one we were trying to protect, that stream right there, yeah. So that was like a back and forth thing. It was like 3 times we looked at it. Yeah, okay,
I have a question.
thank you, yeah. Sorry.
Excuse me, because you just brought up the Boyron facility, 55 acres, you said?
Well, the facility's not gonna be on 55
No, no.
acres.
That was 5 acres of the overall
55
55
acre
acre
Who owns
existing
the
area.
rest of the 55? Is it
Well,
Boyron?
as far as I know, it's still owned by the Deepatons, and they're gonna still own the 5 acres. I think it's a lease.
The lease.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, at least based on the research I'd done for the map, yeah, they could definitely still own the whole thing.
Like, I don't think Boron's buying the property, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. Last item, old business, 11.2. Looking for an update on if there's anything new, sir, with the parking lot. In a couple months, I didn't know if there's any new from PennDOT or our direction or what's going on.
We're still waiting to hear back from PennDOT about the going ahead with the delineators. Not really sure where that stands. The engineer, you haven't heard anything from the engineer on that. So, yeah, we're still waiting to hear back from PennDOT on that. Hoping to get something soon.
Who's responsible in the township for the liaising with PennDOT?
Were you going through the engineer on that?
Our township.
Our township.
Pennoni.
No.
Okay, okay.
But in the meantime, George's crew, what about the last 2 weeks? Yeah, the last 2 weeks, has been out at the site. They've cleared where the parking is going to go. They've connected to where the switchback is, from where the parking's going to go. They've started working on that area. I've given George the go-ahead to start putting together what they need to do. We are anticipating an opportunity to get some millings later this fall. And so we want to put millings down for the parking area. So
if we're able to move forward with some of the stuff, some of the preparation plans right now, is it really just waiting for I'll say the christening? It can only happen after PennDOT says, yeah?
well, we're moving forward with the anticipation that PennDOT's going to agree with what we want to do. And
That's what I'm
so-
saying. We have a good feeling about that. It's just.
Yeah, my understanding is we're
Okay.
just waiting for them to approve the permit.
Okay,
And so they don't disagree with it. They wouldn't pay for it. We actually asked them to pay for it. We actually asked them to do it as their project. They didn't feel it warranted that, but they weren't opposed to it being done. But
okay.
I'm just, as I understand it, we've submitted, we're waiting for them to do the approval. If that's what you're asking.
Yeah, no, that was helpful.
But we're starting to move ahead so that hopefully we can tie both of them together.
So ultimately, we're still optimistic for something in the fall.
I'm hoping, yeah. I mean, if not, we're at least going to lay the foundation so early spring we can get going.
No, I'm
What-
glad,
what's
I'm
hard
glad
to
to hear
know-
that things are moving forward and we're not solely waiting on that to get anything done. That's good.
No, the biggest challenge is on waiting on PennDOT for, the approval. I don't want to open up the parking lot until we get that done.
Yeah,
And so
no, yes,
that's the piece.
okay,
But we're gonna move ahead as far as we think we can go before people would actually be able to park on it and get it ready. We have to do some root removal.
sure.
We have to, we
Rub
want to
and clear,
we have
yeah.
to do some, I guess like some retaining areas to kind of get
For
the-
leveling and.
for
everything,
leveling
proper
and also
drainage, yeah.
for both how we are going to end up doing the trail. It's a little different than was initially designed. And because we've tried to avoid, we know eventually a lot of that thicket and that's there needs to be removed, but we want to do it in stages because people are used to having vegetation.
Yeah,
And so we're going to do some plantings, we're going to do some things, we're gonna probably put in a berm and some things like that to try to help soften the impact of the parking lot on that area. And then as we get the trail put in, make sure it functions the way we want it to function to that point. And then we'll start, getting everything else in line with the way we want to do it. So hopefully we'll get all the foundation stuff kind of in line. I'm just not, like,
Sure.
depending on when PennDOT comes,
Yeah.
determines whether it's this year or next year and whether we have a chance to go out to bid to get this done, because it's going to be a bid process. Because I think it was 50,000 or more, I forget, for the delineators. So, and most of that is because of traffic control, because it's just the speeds that people are coming across there is so
yeah,
high.
yeah.
You need to have traffic control while they're installing.
No, I think it's great, and Terry, I mean, I think once it does happen and it's available for use, we gotta plan an event and celebrate the wins where we can, because we know we don't get many of them, so that would be very good. So, yeah, that would be amazing. All right, so anything else on that? Any other questions from? No? All right. Moving on to additional business. So I didn't have it in here when I submitted, so speaking of wins, Joe had a good idea. Got to figure out a way to kind of get some more attainable things. Some stuff that we have quick wins on, we have kind of abandoned, and then we need to come back to like signage and stuff is something that is very achievable. So for the budget conversation, it kind of all loops back into everything we've been talking about, is that should definitely be something in our budget request for the upcoming year, is we want to get signs to the existing trails. We want to get signs to the existing trails.
In my notes.
I knew it would be, but I didn't want to, Joe and I had a conversation and we were like, yeah, we gotta figure out a way to get back to getting some wins and showing anything we can to help progress our committee's agenda and what we're trying to do. So go ahead.
I would also say that something that's easy, I don't think it's gonna cost a lot of money, is putting together more of a formalized map of the township and the present trails are available. And then either way, that can be posted for people to download. Or I think from the formalization, I think it's actually better to come up with something that, is mailed out to the people within the township. And that way, it's because there's probably a lot of people who have no idea where some of the trails are. I mean,
Yeah,
they see the ones that are along 252 and Westchester Pike, but outside of that, I don't think a lot of people know that you can connect from here down to Drexel Lodge, et cetera.
yeah, I agree. So we can add that to the budget and some of the goals for 2025. And I don't know, sir, how that would work. Is it something like the capabilities for the literal cartography of it are definitely within the township engineer's capabilities? But I don't know if that's something, when we request that for our budget, is that something that then on execution they go through? Because essentially we have the maps from Gilmore that we've all talked about. There's some issues with it. We would start with that as like, hey, here's what we need, and we're going to mark it up and we're going to add things to it and then hand it off. I don't know. I would personally think that would be better for somebody with their expertise to do versus to send it to a graphic designer at that point. But that's only because my own experience as an engineer, like I know the capabilities of doing it, that's all.
Well, I mean, for sure, the engineer has the capability of doing that and, you know, mapping it out. I think the question is, you just have to really decide what you want it to look like and what you want it to do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want it very actual, then yes, I would say we would go through the engineer. If you want it more
Artistic.
characteristic or more caricature type of thing where,
Okay.
you know,
That's a good
and,
point.
you know, I think you have to decide what your goal is. If your goal is to have a very accurate, here's where the trails are in the township that the township has either responsibility for or at least access to, then I would say, you know, yes, I would go through the engineer. If you want something that's more like and I'm gonna,
It's a trail map you're gonna put in your pocket and you're gonna walk with.
yeah, or if you want something more like what you would get when you go into amusement park,
Yeah,
you know, that, you know, you might do something very different. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. It's like, what's the goal of
yeah.
what's the goal of the map? And if the goal of the map is to build excitement, you might want it more like the amusement park map. If your goal is to just give people accuracy of where trails are, then the engineer can do that very easily.
And there's probably a balance to be struck in there at that point
Yeah.
as well. There's something in between. I mean, I have more.
I
maps
think
than
there's some things that you could
Yeah.
do, you know, you could play off of some of the things that we have. You know, you mentioned some of the historic sites. If you take the ones that we already have access to or own and tie
Well-
those in, and you could, and even like the John West House, which we currently don't have ownership of, if you look at it in that, it kind of starts as the center of most of our trail system right now. I mean, if you go there, you can literally pretty much go on to any of the trails within the township, except for maybe the one right out here. You know, you can get to this one even by sidewalks, but my point is that, you know, that serves as kind of that center point, but like, we've talked about some possible trail kind of things even over at Paper Mill, you know, and some walking areas over there. We just have to be careful because some of the historic value there, we don't want to dig up something that,
Yeah.
you know, that has historic value there, but we've talked about that. We've talked about, you know, how do we tie that to some of the other things that we have going on? So you might be able to take a couple of those things and do that. So that's the reason why I said it just really kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to be artistic and like flashy, I probably wouldn't use our engineer.
No.
I'm not putting our engineers down, but
No.
they will be they will
No.
make sure, if you want to know it to be accurately on the map where it is, and somebody can use the map and go find exactly what it's going to do, they will be absolutely perfect. If you want it to just kind of be this is where it is and that kind of thing, then
I'm
I would
thinking
probably
of
do something different.
I'm thinking of a balance of something like that where it's essentially color-coded trail map with different colors for each trail. And then on the back side of it has color, the name of the trail and where you can access it, like physically a intersection
Yeah.
or an address of some kind, so that somebody could go punch it into their phone and drive to a spot where we want them. That's another thing, is control to make sure that people are parking in areas that we want them to park at and not just randomly going anywhere that they want and causing traffic issues or upsetting residents or something like that. So that's what I'm thinking. And there's been a number of them at like state parks all over Pennsylvania. They're real easy, real small, fold up in the size of like a wallet, and then they open up to maybe yay big, you know, something like 24 by 18. That's what I'm thinking is it's definitely a strike balance. It's not photorealistic, perfect, but it's enough there. And we could probably find a service and make a recommendation. Hey, listen, like we found this is what we like. But that should definitely be on the budget plan, and it could tie in with the signs, because then you could literally have the blaze color of that map or of that trail is identify the map, and then you could put like the little plastic cubby holes for it and put them in there eventually.
Yeah.
That would be the ultimate goal. We're talking, you know, it's probably a progression, but the
Yeah.
ultimate goal will be connecting all these things together.
And you really, I mean, you know, some of the projects we've done have been, even though they're not, like, when we think trails, we typically think of going through the woods or, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, or what you see with the Lister Trail, but some of the sidewalks we put in had purposely been to do connections for walking.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we think about the Ellis Avenue sidewalk that was put in, that was really, you know, there was a reason for that, in that because it connects now to the trail, it connects, this trail actually will allow you to now connect to the Ellis Preserve Trail, which connects to the Lister Trail, which also has got that connection with the Goshen Trail. So, you know, we've been able to do some of those connections, and we've been really looking at that, where even though some of them aren't trails as we define them, you know, but they are connection points for walking around town. And so it's possible to tie the two together.
Yeah, okay, good. So, we're kind of, you know, getting to the end here. So the last thing I'll ask is all of our committee members, is there anything that we would like to add to next month's agenda? Because usually what happens is if I don't have clear notes, I'll forget by the time we get to the time where they ask me for the agenda for next month's meeting. There's a couple that are obvious ones. We've got deadlines that we've just set for ourselves now on the questionnaire survey, on the official town map. Getting that list from you, sir, will be very helpful to make sure I hit that deadline. And then now we've got some of these items that we could talk about, because we have the budget request. So those are the three major items that we have to hit. And are there any other items? Obviously, if you do think of another event, Barry, we can add that to. Yep. Yeah, I'll make sure they get on there as well. Okay.
Hey, Anthony, I thought,
Oh,
if I remember correct, yeah. If I remember correctly, I thought Joe Falcon asked that we put strategic goals and low-hanging fruit as an agenda item on every meeting, so we can talk about those things if we need to.
yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about, the wins. I didn't use the low-hanging fruit analogy, but yeah, so that's
I
definitely
just
going
thought-
on there.
I thought it was gonna
definitely
be an
wanna have that
agenda
on there
item.
again.
Yeah, okay.
I'll change the terminology for the official document. It's from low-hanging fruit.
I don't
or
care what you
something,
call it, I just,
but I know what you mean. Put it on a
Yeah.
recurring item. Yes.
yeah. And I think strategic goals was the other one that he had brought up.
Okay, yeah, long-term strategic goal type stuff. Got it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's what
Alright,
I've tried more loosely with the monthly review, the actual network plan. Is keeping on the big overall goals. It's just hard to cover everything in a certain length of meeting, but I think we definitely put it on the agenda as a recurring business item that we're gonna touch on and see where we are with some of the big ones.
Great.
Yeah, I just have one thing. In June, I sent in an article for the township for National Trails Day.
Mhm.
And I did it in the form of a narrative, because I was involved in these trails. And it sort of, had included my name in some of them. I sent it in, and it came back with my name removed, but in kind of a weird fashion. I'll give you an example. It says in the early 1980s, the Trails and Greenways Committee approached Arco Chemical with the hope of gaining their approval for a walking trail. Well, that's
We
40
didn't-
years
we didn't
before the
exist.
Trails Committee was in existence. So I sent back, an email saying that these things are a little bit appropriate. I have not heard anything. I don't know where that stands at the moment because nobody's gotten back to me.
As far as I know, I don't think there's been any further action taken with it.
Okay.
So I don't know, because I didn't speak with anyone directly on it other than you. I'm gonna play devil's advocate and hope that it was an attempt to, I don't know how, I guess maybe make it maybe a little bit wider to the whole committee township. I don't know, but I know what you mean. It's like, but it's nowhere near accurate then. It misrepresents things. And so, yeah, and then we didn't have our meeting. We had too many people going to be out last month and it kind of honestly forgot at that point about it. So, I can't remember who was in that email chain from the township, but I know you, I mean, from the township. I can't remember who it was. But I'll rehash again and pull it up and see if I can have a conversation to find out if there's some. So that they understand exactly what you're trying to do, but also trying to get their side and figure out if there's some middle ground that we can make to. Sound all right?
That's fine. I mean, there's a compromise area, but
Yeah, that's the
coming
goal.
out with falsities here isn't gonna help anything.
No, it's not, no. Well, I'm glad you responded to the email just because the worst case scenario is if that would have went out that way, then that would have been really bad. So, I agree. All right.
Okay.
Appreciate
That's
you
all.
bringing it up, sir. Anyone else have any additional comments? Okay, no, the board isn't here, so they're not going to comment. There's no public here. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion by member Falcon, seconded by member McCarthy. Do all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposed, the ayes have it, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And we got a lot to do for September and look forward to seeing you all then.
All right, thank you.